Good evening, gang. David Gupple, Thinker Farmer here. I'm here with Dr. Alan Williams. He's been here at Kinloch Farms for the past couple days with Eric. How's he say his last name? I want to say Fuchs. And anyway, we've had a really great 2-day workshop, and he's been unpacking Regen Ag 101 and soil health, and have wanted to meet you for a while, Alan, believe it or not, and read articles about you and the Stockman grass farmer and a lot of information you've put out there. And would you briefly share with us your story kind of in ag? I mean, briefly, because you've been in it a long time.
Yeah, so I'm born and raised on my family's farm in South Carolina. I was 6th generation. They've been there since 1840. And so really enjoyed that experience growing up. We were a very diversified farm. Grew up there in the 60s and 70s, and then went away to college and got talked into going to graduate school and going on for a PhD. Never intended to do any of that. So ended up in academia for about 15 years after that as a university researcher and professor. Then after 15 years, I really decided that, you know, my heart was more back in private business and production agriculture.
Yeah.
So I was a tenured full professor and decided to resign and leave that world.
How old were you?
I was 40 years old.
Oh, wow.
When I left. Yeah, so that was the year 2000.
Okay.
And went back into into farming and ranching full time. But I knew I had to do it very differently. If you were going to make it in farming and ranching, you were not going to do it doing it conventionally.
You'd seen that being in academia.
Absolutely. So I knew that was going to do nothing but trap me in debt and keep me working off thin margins and those types of things. So I started exploring a whole host of things, from producing grass-fed beef to doing other pasture proteins and what we now call today adaptive grazing and regenerative agriculture. Didn't call it that then.
Yeah.
But you know, I was sort of flying by the seat of my pants, to be honest with you. Didn't have a lot of mentors. Didn't have a lot of people to learn from, because very few in my area, at least, were doing any of this at that point. So I learned by the seat of my pants, but I had to, because that was my livelihood.
Okay.
I had a university paycheck.
Right. Well, necessity is the mother of invention.
That's correct. That's correct. And so along the way, we learned an awful lot. Started doing consulting as well, speaking at a lot of conferences, and that led me to meeting my current partners today. And Gabe Brown and myself, and originally Ray Archuleta and David Brandt, we formed Understanding Ag and the Soil Health Academy. And then about 3 years ago, another company called Regenerative. And since then, we have worked all over the world. 45 plus countries, all 50 U.S. states, and in the U.S. across about 34 million acres. So we've really been able to be completely immersed into
So
this
it's come a long
world.
way in just a quarter of a century.
Come a very long way.
Yeah. Well, you've made several shifts in farming, but you've pretty much done it your whole life. What is it you enjoy about farming? Has that changed, and what is that?
Yeah, you know, growing up I enjoyed it, and now I enjoy it immensely. It's sort of because of all the travel that I do with our work with Understanding Ag and the Academy, being back on the farm is my release. And that's where I can relax. That's where I can do what I love to do. I love being out there with the livestock, and you know, whether it's moving cattle, moving sheep, moving chickens, whatever the case may be, and just observing and continuing to learn from what we're doing on our own farms. So the farm to me is a sanctuary.
I like that.
Yeah, and it's you know, it helps me to be well with myself, well with my soul. Yeah. And and I'm with my family. You know?
Right.
So my youngest son is running our farm now, and so you know, it allows me to be able to have that opportunity with him.
Amen. So what's your plan or goals moving forward? You've already, sounds like, are in process of making the transgenerational change. Your son is now running things.
Yep.
And I don't know how he's going to buy or inherit or how you'll work that out. That's probably more for another video maybe, but what's your plan moving forward with agriculture for yourself and ag and your farms?
Yeah, so, you know, I'll remain active in the farm to a certain extent, you know, for quite a while longer. I feel like I've still got a number of good years left.
Yeah.
And I have no retirement plans.
I hear that.
Just transition plans.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah, we still are extremely active with Understanding Ag and the Academy and Regenerative, so I plan to still be active in all of that for a while. We want to build those companies to where they're lasting companies, you know, and they don't end with myself, with Gabe. So our goal is to build those before we sort of step away a little bit, and then we'll remain in board positions, you know, on those companies for a while as well. But I sort of want to retire back to the farm, so to speak, and to spend, you know, those latter years of my life doing what I love out on the land.
I hear that. Well, Alan, thank you for your time. We've had a packed 2 days. It's been a blessing.
Thank you.
Being here and fellowshipping and learning together. You've definitely reminded me that school's never out, and it's been a great 2 days. Thank you for being on the channel.
Thank you.
All righty. With that, gang, blessings for the journey, and keep it real.